My name is Anna Wright. I'm 32 years old, and the moment my brother's girlfriend called my grandmother's vintage Chanel jacket charity shop chic in front of my entire family, I smiled politely and decided to destroy her. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you why that dinner changed everything. Tell me in the comments, have you ever been invisible in your own family? I grew up in London, second generation British Polish. My parents, Margaret and Richard Wright, built their lives around one principle: appearances are everything. My father is a corporate lawyer. My mother, a former socialite who never quite let go of her glory days. And my brother David, well, David is the golden child. Always has been. Investment banker, six-figure salary by 28, the kind of son parents brag about at dinner parties. Then there's me, Anna, the creative one, the disappointment, the daughter who studied art history and design instead of law or finance, the one who works in branding, which my family assumes means I make Instagram posts for small businesses. They're not entirely wrong, but they're not right either. What my family doesn't know, what they've never bothered to ask about, is that I own Wright and Associates. It's a luxury brand consulting firm specializing in heritage European fashion houses. The kind of brands that have been around for 100 years and need someone who understands legacy, not just trends. I've rebuilt 3 Parisian fashion houses, restructured 2 Italian leather goods companies, and my client list reads like a who's who of European luxury. My annual revenue last year was £8.5 million, but I live quietly. I bought my flat in Notting Hill outright 4 years ago. My family thinks I rent a studio in Hackney. I wear vintage clothing, most of it from my grandmother's collection. My family thinks I shop at charity shops because I can't afford better. I drive a 10-year-old Volvo. My family assumes I'm struggling. The truth is, I don't need them to know. I built this for me, not for applause. I kept it all hidden because every time I tried to share something real with them growing up, it was dismissed. When I got a first-class degree, my father said, "That's nice, darling," then spent an hour talking about David's promotion. When I launched my business, my mother suggested I find something more stable. When I bought my flat, I said I found a great place, and she assumed I meant I'd found a flat share. I stopped correcting them. It was easier. The invisibility became a habit, a protective shell. If they didn't see me, they couldn't diminish me. If I didn't share my victories, they couldn't minimize them. So I built my empire in the shadows, brick by brick, client by client, success by success. I attended family dinners and smiled through their assumptions. I listened to their concerns about my future while sitting on a 7-figure portfolio. I let them worry about me finding my way while I was already miles ahead on a path they couldn't even see. It was lonely sometimes, incredibly lonely, but it felt safer than the alternative. But 3 weeks ago, everything changed. David called me. We don't talk often. Usually it's birthday messages and obligatory Christmas visits, but he sounded different. Excited. Nervous. "Anna, I'm bringing someone to dinner at Mom and Dad's. Someone special. I need you to be there. Someone special." In our family, that meant someone worth performing for. I should have known then. The next day, my mother called. "Anna, darling, we're having a very important family dinner on Saturday. David's bringing his girlfriend. Her name is Vanessa. She's quite successful, apparently. Please try to dress nicely. And maybe don't talk about work too much. You know how it is." I knew exactly how it was. I was being told to make myself smaller so David could shine brighter. Standard procedure in the right household. But something about this felt different. My mother's voice had that edge, that desperate quality she gets when she's worried about what the neighbors might think. This wasn't just dinner. This was an audition. And Vanessa, whoever she was, had already passed. I did what I always do. I researched. It took me about 20 minutes to find Vanessa Sterling, Instagram influencer, lifestyle blogger, 150,000 followers. Her bio said, wellness entrepreneur and brand consultant. Her feed was a carefully curated mix of green smoothies, designer handbags, and inspirational quotes about manifesting abundance. The kind of content that makes you feel poor just by looking at it. But something was off. Her engagement rate didn't match her follower count. Her business, Sterling Wellness Collective, had only been registered for 18 months. Her website sold online courses about brand building and wellness certification. £1,200 for 8 weeks of pre-recorded videos. The testimonials looked suspiciously generic. I made a note to dig deeper, but honestly, I wasn't that interested. David's girlfriends came and went. This one would too. I was wrong. Saturday arrived and I put on my grandmother's Chanel jacket. Black wool, impeccable tailoring, the kind of piece that whispers old money. I paired it with a simple black dress and my grandmother's pearl earrings. Minimal makeup. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I was armoring myself. I arrived at my parents' house at 7. The dining room was already set. Crystal glasses, cloth napkins, my mother's best china. This wasn't just dinner. This was a statement. My father was in the living room, nursing a scotch. My mother was fussing with flower arrangements. And then the door opened. David walked in first. He looked good. Expensive suit, new watch, the kind of confidence that comes from a recent bonus. And behind him, Vanessa. She was exactly what I expected. Tall, blonde, designer everything. Gucci bag, Louboutin heels, Cartier bracelet. She walked in like she was being photographed, which, as it turned out, she was. She had her phone out, filming. "Just getting some content," she said brightly. "You all look so amazing. This house is gorgeous. Very classic English, love it." My mother beamed. David looked proud. My father stood up straighter, and I smiled politely, because that's what you do when you know a performance is beginning. Vanessa's eyes swept the room and landed on me. "Oh my God," she said, walking over. "That jacket is so cute. Vintage, right? I love charity shops. So sustainable. Everyone does fast fashion now, but I think it's so important to recycle. Where did you find it?" "It was my grandmother's," I said quietly. "She left me her collection." Vanessa's smile didn't waver. "That's so sweet. It's like having a piece of history." "I love that for you." Then she turned to my mother, already moving on. "Mrs. Wright, thank you so much for having me. David talks about you all the time." And just like that, I was dismissed. We sat down for dinner. My mother had made roast beef, overcooked as always. Vanessa talked. And talked. And talked. She told us about her business, her brand partnerships, her followers. She used words like synergy and authentic engagement and thought leadership. My mother hung on every word. My father nodded approvingly. David watched her like she was the most fascinating person he'd ever met. Then Vanessa turned to me. "So Anna, David mentioned you do something with art? That's so cool." "What exactly?" "I work in brand consulting," I said simply. "Oh, like social media?" Vanessa's eyes lit up. "That's amazing. I could totally give you some tips if you want." Building a following is all about consistency and knowing your audience. I've grown my platform to 6 figures in less than 2 years. "Anna's work is a bit different," David said, but there was no conviction in his voice. He was already on Vanessa's side. My mother jumped in. Anna's always been creative, but it's not exactly a stable career path. Vanessa, tell us more about your wellness program. It sounds fascinating. And just like that, I was erased again. Vanessa launched into a pitch about her certification course. How she was empowering women to build their own wellness businesses. How she'd personally mentored dozens of successful entrepreneurs. How her methods were based on ancient practices meets modern strategy. I listened, and I heard something that made my spine straighten. She dropped a name, Maison Beaumont, a Parisian fashion house, one of my clients. She claimed she'd consulted for them on their digital rebranding last year. I had personally overseen that project. Vanessa Sterling had never been anywhere near it. She was lying, confidently, convincingly, and my family was buying every word. That's when I made my decision. I wasn't going to let this slide, but they had no idea what was coming next. I need to take you back a bit, because what happened at that dinner didn't start that night. It started when I was 7 years old, and David brought home a math test with a gold star. My parents hung it on the refrigerator, took a photo, called my grandparents. I brought home a painting I'd spent weeks on, and my mother said, "That's lovely, darling," and put it in a drawer. I found it years later, never even looked at properly, just shoved away like it didn't matter. Like I didn't matter. It was always like that. David's school achievements were celebrated. Mine were acknowledged. When David got into university, my parents threw a party. When I got a full scholarship to study art history, they asked if I was sure I didn't want to do something more practical. When David graduated and got his first banking job, they bought him a car. When I graduated with first-class honors, they took me to dinner and spent the entire meal asking when I was going to find a real career. I'm not saying my parents are terrible people. They're not abusive. They don't shout or hit or deliberately hurt. They're just convinced they know what success looks like, and anything that doesn't fit that picture is failure. And I've never fit their picture. I'm too quiet, too creative, too unconventional, too much like my grandmother, actually. My grandmother, Helena, was the only person who really saw me. She was Polish aristocracy, lost everything during the war, rebuilt her life in London with nothing but intelligence and impeccable taste. She taught me that real elegance whispers, desperation shouts. She taught me about quality over quantity, legacy over trends, substance over performance. She died when I was 25, and she left me her vintage couture collection and something else, a small black address book filled with names and numbers, contacts she'd built over decades in the fashion world. She understood what my parents never could. That success isn't always loud, that the most valuable things are often the most understated, that true power doesn't need to announce itself. She'd lost titles, estates, everything that was supposed to define her worth. And she'd rebuilt herself into someone who mattered not because of what she had, but because of who she was. That lesson, that quiet strength, became the foundation of everything I built. The last time I saw her, she was in hospital, weak but still sharp, still elegant even in a hospital gown. She held my hand and said, "Anna, listen to me. Your family doesn't understand you because they're afraid of anything they can't quantify. But the things that matter most can't be measured on a spreadsheet. Use what I've taught you. Build something real, and don't waste your time trying to prove yourself to people who've already decided who you are. Prove it to yourself." Those were almost her last words to me, and they changed everything. 2 weeks after she died, I got a letter from her lawyer. Along with her clothing collection, she'd left me something else. Letters of introduction to 3 major European fashion houses. She'd known their founders, their families, their histories. Those letters were worth more than money. They were trust. Legacy. A door into a world most people spend their whole lives trying to enter. I used them. 6 months after her funeral, I landed my first consulting contract. A small Italian leather goods company on the brink of bankruptcy. They'd lost their way, chasing trends, abandoning the craftsmanship that made them special. I spent 3 months there, studying their archives, talking to their oldest artisans, understanding what made them valuable. Then I rebuilt their brand story, not around what was trendy, but around what was true. Within a year, they were profitable again. Within 2 years, they'd tripled their revenue. That's when I realized what I was good at. I understand legacy. I understand the difference between fashion and style, between trends and timelessness, between what sells and what lasts. And the brands that needed that kind of understanding, they were willing to pay for it. Handsomely. I built Wright & Associates slowly, carefully, one client at a time. I didn't advertise. I didn't need to. Word spread in the small, insular world of heritage luxury. The girl who saved Casa di Rossi. The consultant who understood what Maison Beaumont had lost. By the time I was 30, I had a roster of clients that would make any business school graduate weep with envy. By the time I was 31, I'd made my first million. By 32, I owned my flat, my office building, and had an investment portfolio my father would actually respect if he knew it existed. But I never told them. Every Christmas, every birthday, every obligatory family dinner, I smiled and nodded when they asked how work was going. Fine, I'd say. Keeping busy. And they'd nod back, satisfied that I was still muddling through, still figuring things out, still not quite David. It was easier than explaining, easier than watching them recalibrate, watching them try to fit this new information into their fixed idea of who I was supposed to be. My best friend Isabel, my business partner, thought I was insane. "You're a millionaire and your family thinks you're broke," she'd say, shaking her head. "Why do you let them believe that?" And I'd shrug. Because the moment I tell them, everything changes. They'll want to be part of it. They'll take credit for it. They'll find a way to make it about them. This way, it's mine, just mine. But that dinner, watching Vanessa lie about working with my clients, watching my family eat it up, watching David look at her like she hung the moon while I sat there invisible in my grandmother's Chanel, something cracked. I went home that night, and I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the evening, the casual dismissal, the charity shop comment, the assumption that I needed her tips, the way my own mother had basically apologized for my existence. So, I did what I do best. I researched. And what I found over the next 3 days made me very, very angry. Vanessa Sterling wasn't just exaggerating. She was running what amounted to a sophisticated scam. Her wellness certification program promised students they'd learn to build 6-figure businesses. But the course content was generic information anyone could find on YouTube. The certification was meaningless, not recognized by any legitimate body. And the private mentorship sessions she promised, they were 15-minute group calls with dozens of people. I found a forum, a small one, buried deep in search results. Dozens of women who'd paid £1,200 for Vanessa's course and gotten nothing. She'd ghost them after payment, ignore their emails, block them when they complained. Some had tried to get refunds. Vanessa threatened them with legal action for defamation. Most gave up. A few were still fighting, but they didn't have resources or leverage. I read their stories late into the night. Single mothers who'd saved for months. Women who'd taken out loans believing this would change their lives. Young entrepreneurs who'd trusted Vanessa because she seemed successful, confident, like she knew the way. Each testimonial made my anger burn hotter. This wasn't just about my brother anymore. This was about every woman Vanessa had exploited. Every person who'd believed her performance. I wasn't just protecting David, I was stopping her from doing this to anyone else. Then I found the debt records, public filings from companies Vanessa had tried to start, a boutique that lasted 6 months, a supplement line that never launched, an events company that folded owing suppliers £40,000. Total documented debt, £127,000. Vanessa Sterling wasn't a successful entrepreneur. She was drowning. And my brother, with his recent promotion and healthy bonus, looked like a life raft. I built a file, screenshots, records, testimonials from scammed students, financial documents, timeline of her relationship with David, starting exactly 2 weeks after his promotion was announced on LinkedIn. I didn't know what I was going to do with it yet, but I knew I wasn't going to sit quietly anymore. Then, 2 weeks later, David called me. "Anna, can you meet me for coffee? I need to talk to you about something." He sounded nervous, excited. I knew what was coming before he said it. "I'm going to propose to Vanessa. I think she's the one. Mom and Dad love her. She's ambitious, driven, successful. Everything I've been looking for. I just wanted to tell you first." I sat there in the coffee shop, watching my brother glow with happiness that was built on lies, and I thought about my grandmother. What would she do? She'd smile. She'd congratulate him. And then she'd quietly, elegantly, devastatingly reveal the truth when it would do the most good. Not out of cruelty, out of protection. "That's amazing, David," I said. "I'm really happy for you. When are you thinking?" "Soon," he said. "Actually, Mom's already planning an engagement party. She's so excited. 3 weeks from now, she wants to do it properly. You'll come, right?" "Of course," I said. "I wouldn't miss it." He relaxed. "I knew you'd be supportive. I know Vanessa came on a bit strong at dinner, but she means well. She's just very confident, very successful. I think you could actually learn a lot from her, Anna, about putting yourself out there, building a brand." I smiled. I'm sure I could. The rage in my chest was a living thing now, not hot, cold, precise, strategic. I went home and I called Isabel. "I need you to come to an engagement party with me in 3 weeks, and I need you to help me end a relationship." She didn't ask questions. She just said, "Finally." The next 3 weeks were busy. I had client work, meetings in Paris and Milan. But in the evenings, I refined my file. I contacted some of Vanessa's victims, got statements, documented everything. I confirmed details with my clients, got written confirmation that Vanessa had never worked with them. I built an airtight case. Because I wasn't just going to embarrass her. I was going to make sure everyone knew exactly who she was. My mother called twice to discuss what I should wear to the party. "Something nice, Anna. This is important. David's future wife. I want us all to look like a family." I promised I'd dress appropriately. I had my grandmother's vintage Dior picked out. Black, elegant, understated. Perfect. The engagement party was exactly what I expected. My mother had rented a private room at an upscale hotel in Kensington. Cream and gold decor, champagne fountain, catering from somewhere expensive enough that they didn't list prices. About 50 guests, family friends, David's colleagues, some of Vanessa's influencer crowd who kept taking photos of everything. My father stood near the bar looking vaguely uncomfortable in a tuxedo. My mother floated through the crowd in a designer dress, playing hostess like she was born to it. And in the center of it all, Vanessa. She looked stunning, I'll give her that. White cocktail dress, perfectly styled hair, engagement ring catching the light every time she moved her hand, which was constantly. She was in performance mode, hugging guests, posing for photos, filming content. Every 30 seconds her phone came out. Capturing this special moment, she kept saying, sharing our joy with my followers. David stood beside her looking proud and slightly overwhelmed. He'd always wanted to be seen as successful, powerful, important, and Vanessa made him feel that way. I understood the appeal. She was everything our family valued: beautiful, confident, loud about her achievements, the kind of woman who commands attention the moment she enters a room, the opposite of me in every way. I arrived with Isabel. She looked incredible in a deep green dress that made every head turn. We made our entrance quietly, got champagne, found a corner to observe from. "We're really doing this," Isabel said. "It's not too late to just let them figure it out on their own." I looked at Vanessa, holding court, lying to David's colleagues about her business success, and I shook my head. She's going to take him for everything he has, and my family will blame him for picking wrong instead of admitting they pushed him toward wrong. Someone has to tell the truth. My mother spotted me and waved us over. "Anna, darling, you look lovely." "Actually lovely," said like it was a surprise. "And this must be Isabel. Welcome." She air-kissed us both, then lowered her voice. "David's about to make a speech. Then Vanessa. Then your father. Try to look happy, yes? This is a celebration." The speeches started. David went first. Talked about finding someone who matched his ambition, his drive, his vision for the future. Talked about Vanessa like she was a business acquisition he was proud of. It was sweet in a tragic kind of way. He genuinely believed he'd found a partner. He had no idea he'd found a predator. Then Vanessa. She took the microphone like she'd been born with one. "Thank you all so much for being here. This is literally a dream come true. When I met David 6 months ago, I knew he was special. Successful, driven, from such an incredible family. I loved that we both understood what it takes to build something meaningful. My business has been my baby for the past 2 years, and finding someone who respects that, who wants to build an empire together, that's everything." She went on. Talked about their future, the life they'd build, how excited she was to be part of the Wright family. How she'd always wanted a sister, looking at me with what I'm sure she thought was a warm smile. I smiled back. My mother was crying. Actually crying. My father looked pleased. David looked like he'd won the lottery. The guests applauded. Then my father stood up. More champagne was poured. He talked about family legacy, about finding the right partner, about being proud of David's choices, about welcoming Vanessa into the fold, about how she represented the kind of success the Wright family valued: hard work, ambition, results. He sat down to more applause. The room buzzed with good feeling. People were drinking, laughing, toasting. David and Vanessa kissed for the cameras, and I stood up. My heart was pounding, but my hands were steady. I walked to the front of the room. "Excuse me," I said, not loud, but clear. "May I say a few words?" The room quieted. My mother looked alarmed. David looked confused. Vanessa's smile froze. I took the microphone from my father's hand. "Thank you. I'll be brief. I just wanted to say how happy I am for my brother. David, you've always been the golden child, and tonight proves why. You're excellent at presentations. A few people laughed, thinking I was being funny. David's smile was uncertain. I turned to Vanessa. And Vanessa, you mentioned building your business, consulting for luxury brands. I'm curious, which brands specifically? You mentioned it at dinner a few weeks ago, but I didn't catch all the names. Vanessa's confidence didn't waver. Oh, well, I've worked with several. Maison Beaumont on their digital strategy, Casa di Rossi on brand positioning, and Atelier Noir on their relaunch. All within the luxury space. Very high-end, very exclusive. Interesting, I said. I pulled my phone from my clutch, because I actually work with two of those brands. I'm the brand strategist they hired. I've been consulting for Maison Beaumont for 3 years, and Casa di Rossi for 4. In fact, I own the company they contracted. Wright and Associates. The room went completely silent. Not awkward silent. Shocked silent. Like someone had hit pause on reality. I connected my phone to the room's display screen, something my mother's event planner had set up for the photo slideshow. My business card appeared. Wright and Associates, founder and CEO, Anna Wright. Then my client list: Maison Beaumont, Casa di Rossi, Hermès, Prada, Brunello Cucinelli. 8 more names that made the fashion people in the room audibly gasp. Annual revenue, I continued, my voice still calm, £8.5 million. I've been running this company for 6 years, building it quietly while everyone assumed I was struggling. The third brand you mentioned, Vanessa, Atelier Noir, doesn't exist. I would know. I work with every major heritage luxury brand in Europe. Vanessa had gone pale. David was staring at me like I'd grown a second head. My mother's champagne glass was frozen halfway to her lips. My father had stood up. Anna, he said, what is this? This is the truth, I said. I looked at Vanessa. You've never consulted for any luxury brand. You sell online courses that promise women they'll build 6-figure businesses, but you deliver generic content and ghost them after payment. I pulled up screenshots, reviews from former students. This is Sarah Mitchell. She paid you £1,200 last year. You promised personal mentorship. She got 3 group calls, and then you blocked her emails. This is Jennifer Lawson. Same story. This is Rebecca Chen. She tried to get a refund, and you threatened to sue her for defamation. The images filled the screen. Testimonial after testimonial. Women who'd been scammed. Vanessa tried to speak. That's not. Those are. You can't. But I kept going. I pulled up public records. These are your business filings. Sterling Boutique, closed owing suppliers £40,000. Sterling Supplements, never launched. Sterling Events, folded with £80,000 in debt. Total documented debt, £127,000. You're not a successful entrepreneur, Vanessa. You're drowning. And my brother, with his recent promotion and healthy bonus, looked like a solution. David made a sound. A choked, awful sound. Vanessa turned to him. David, I can explain. This is all out of context. But he stepped back from her. Is any of this true? She opened her mouth, closed it, tried again. David, please. He looked at me. Is it true? All of it? All of it, I said quietly. I pulled up one more thing, the timeline. Your relationship with Vanessa started exactly 2 weeks after your promotion was announced on LinkedIn. These are screenshots of her researching you, your salary, your position, your family's wealth. This wasn't love, David. This was strategy. The room erupted, not in anger, in chaos. People pulling out phones, searching for Vanessa online, finding her courses, reading reviews. David's colleagues backing away from Vanessa like she was toxic. My mother sitting down hard in her chair. my father staring at me with an expression I'd never seen. Not anger, shock, maybe respect. Vanessa's influencer friends were already filming. This was going to be all over social media within the hour. Vanessa grabbed her purse. "You're insane," she spat at me. "You're jealous and bitter, and you're ruining this because you can't stand to see your brother happy." She looked at David. "I love you. You know that." "Do I?" David's voice was hollow. "Because looking at these photos, these documents, I don't know anything anymore." Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. Real ones, I think. Or maybe she was just that good at performing. She looked around the room, realized there was no recovering this, and ran. Literally ran, heels clicking on marble, out the door, and gone. The silence that followed was suffocating. Then my mother stood up. "Anna," she said, and her voice was shaking. "Why didn't you tell us? About your business. About her. Before it got to this." I looked at her. "When would I have told you, Mom? When you asked about my work." "You never did. You assumed. You decided I was failing, and you never questioned it. You let her mock me at dinner and you said nothing. You told me not to make a scene. So I didn't. Not until it mattered." My father found his voice. "You're a millionaire?" His tone was strangled. "I'm successful," I corrected, "and I built it myself, with grandmother's help, with the contacts she left me and the values she taught me. While you were all celebrating David and ignoring me, I was building something real. I just didn't need you to know about it." David sat down heavily. "Anna, I can't." He looked up at me. "Did you do this for revenge?" "I did this to protect you," I said. "She was going to bleed you dry, David. She was going to marry you, take everything she could, and leave. I did this because you're my brother, and you deserve better than someone who sees you as a bank account. Even if our family doesn't see me as anything at all." I handed the microphone back to my father. I left my contact card on the table. One for David, one for my parents. "When you're ready to talk, really talk, I'm here. I'm not angry. I'm just done being invisible." Then Isabel and I walked out. We could hear the explosion of voices behind us as we left, everyone talking at once, trying to make sense of what just happened. My phone was already buzzing with messages. David, my mother, my father. I turned it off. In the car, Isabel looked at me. "How do you feel?" I thought about it. "Free," I said finally. "I feel free." The fallout was immediate and spectacular. By the next morning, Vanessa's social media was in ruins. Her former students had found each other and united. They created a collective Instagram account exposing her course as a scam. Screenshots of unanswered emails, promised mentorship that never materialized, aggressive legal threats when they asked for refunds. One woman had recorded a group call where Vanessa spent 15 minutes of the promised hour trying to sell them a more expensive tier. The hashtag Vanessa Sterling Scam was trending in London. Lifestyle bloggers who'd collaborated with her were deleting partnership posts and issuing statements. I was not aware of these business practices. I do not condone this behavior. Her follower count dropped by 40,000 in 24 hours. The comments on her posts, the ones she hadn't deleted yet, were brutal. Scammer, fraud, gold digger. Within 48 hours, she'd deleted everything. Her Instagram, her website, her LinkedIn. Vanessa Sterling, wellness entrepreneur, ceased to exist online. But I wasn't watching any of that. I'd turned off my phone and spent the weekend in my flat, reading, cooking, existing in the quiet peace of my own space. Isabel checked in twice to make sure I was alive. You're handling this very calmly for someone who just nuked their family, she said. I've been nuked by my family my whole life, I replied. This is just balancing the scales. Monday morning, I turned my phone back on. 217 messages. Most from numbers I didn't recognize. A few from David. Several from my mother. One from my father that just said we need to talk. I ignored all of them and went to work. I had a meeting with a client in Paris at the end of the week. Life didn't stop just because my family finally noticed I existed. But Tuesday afternoon, someone showed up at my office. Not my home, my office. The building I own in Clerkenwell, all glass and steel and minimalist elegance. My assistant buzzed me. Anna, there's a man here to see you. He says he's your father. No appointment. Should I send him away? I paused, then said no. Send him up. 3 minutes later, Richard Wright walked into my office and stopped dead. He looked around slowly. The exposed brick, the designer furniture, the wall of framed awards and features in fashion magazines, the view of London through floor-to-ceiling windows. Then he looked at me, sitting behind my desk in my grandmother's vintage Yves Saint Laurent blazer. This is yours? His voice was quiet. All of it. I bought the building 4 years ago. My office is the top floor. I lease out the others to other creative businesses. He walked to the window, looked out, then back at me. Why didn't you tell us? I've been asking myself that same question, I said. Why didn't I tell you? Maybe because every time I tried to share something I cared about, you dismissed it. Maybe because I learned early that I'd never be David, so why bother competing? Maybe because building this in secret felt safer than building it under your judgment. He flinched. That's not fair, isn't it? When I got my scholarship, you asked if I was sure I didn't want to do something more practical. When I graduated first in my class, you spent dinner talking about David's promotion. When I told you I was starting a consulting business, you suggested I find something stable first. So I stopped telling you things, Dad. I stopped giving you opportunities to tell me I wasn't enough. He sat down heavily in one of my client chairs. I didn't know it felt like that for you. Your mother and I, we just wanted you to be secure. We worried. You were always so quiet, so in your head. David was easier to understand. His path made sense. But yours, he shook his head. We didn't know how to support something we didn't understand. So we didn't try. That's the problem, I said softly. You didn't try. You just decided who I was and stopped looking. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, Your brother is devastated. Not about Vanessa, about you, about how wrong he got everything. He wants to talk to you, but he's afraid you hate him now. I don't hate him, I said. I never did. I was just tired of being treated like I was less than him, like my success didn't count because it wasn't his kind of success. My father nodded slowly. What you did at the engagement party, exposing that woman, that took courage and precision. He almost smiled. Very lawyerly, actually. I smiled back. Grandmother taught me well. He stood up. Anna, I can't undo 32 years of getting it wrong, but I'd like to try to get the next 32 right, if you'll let me. I thought about my grandmother, about what she'd say. Real elegance whispers, desperation shouts. Real apologies are actions, not words. I'll think about it, I said. But Dad, if we do this, if we try to fix this, it has to be real. No more assumptions, no more dismissals. You have to actually see me, not who you want me to be, who I am. He nodded. I can do that. I hope I can do that. He left, and I sat in my office, surrounded by everything I'd built, and felt something unfamiliar. Not quite forgiveness. Not yet. But maybe the beginning of possibility. David showed up Wednesday evening at my flat. I don't know how he got my address, the real one, not the fake Hackney studio he thought I lived in. He stood in my doorway looking exhausted. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside. He walked into my flat and I watched him process it. The space, the furniture, the art on the walls, the view, the kitchen that was bigger than the studio he thought I lived in. "This whole time," he said. "Yeah," I replied. "This whole time." We sat in my living room. I didn't offer tea, didn't offer comfort, just sat and waited. "Anna, I'm so sorry." His voice cracked. Not just about Vanessa, about everything. About never asking about your life. About letting her mock you at dinner. About being so blind that I brought a con artist into our family, and you had to be the one to stop it. "I'm sorry I treated you like you were less than me. You never were. I was just too stupid to see it." "You weren't stupid," I said. "You were taught to see success a certain way. We all were. I just learned to stop caring what the measure was." He looked at me. "When did you stop caring?" "When grandmother died? She left me her address book and told me to stop wasting time trying to prove myself to people who'd already decided who I was. So I took her advice. I proved it to myself instead." "Can you tell me about it?" "Your business. What you actually do." And for the first time, really the first time, I told my brother the truth. Not the simplified version, the real version. I told him about my first client, the terror and thrill of saving a company from bankruptcy, about learning to trust my instincts, about the moment I realized I was good at this, really good, about building a company that let me work with beauty and history and legacy, about making more money than I ever thought possible doing something I loved. He listened, really listened, asked questions, good questions. And when I finished, he said, "You're remarkable. You know that? You're actually remarkable." I shrugged. "I'm just myself. That's more than most people manage." He stood up to leave, then turned back. "Anna, I know I don't have the right to ask, but are we okay? Can we be okay?" "I don't know yet," I said honestly. "You hurt me, David. Not just at the engagement party. For years. All of you did. And I can't just pretend that didn't happen because you finally noticed. But I don't want to lose you either. So maybe we start over. Maybe we try being actual siblings instead of golden child and disappointment. Maybe we see how that goes." He nodded. "I'd like that. I'd really like that." After he left, I poured myself wine and stood by my window watching London light up in the dark. My phone buzzed. My mother. "Can we have tea?" "Just us. I need to understand." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I replied. "Saturday, 3 p.m. My office. She could come to my world this time." Saturday came. My mother arrived exactly on time, which meant she'd been circling the block for 10 minutes working up courage. She walked into my office and I watched her take it all in. The evidence of my success that she'd never asked about, never imagined. She sat down carefully. "Your father told me what you said. About how we made you feel. About us deciding who you were. I didn't offer tea. Didn't make small talk. Just waited. Anna, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to admit I failed you. Because I did, didn't I? I failed you completely." She wasn't crying. My mother doesn't cry in public. But her hands were shaking. "I thought I was protecting you. You were so sensitive, so easily hurt. David was tough. He could handle pressure. But you, You needed gentle handling. So I tried to shield you from expectations, from pressure, from, she laughed bitterly, success, apparently. I thought I was being a good mother. You were protecting yourself, I said quietly. Not me. You were protecting yourself from having a daughter who didn't fit your idea of what daughters should be. So you decided I was fragile, impractical, not quite enough. And I spent 32 years trying to be less than I was so you wouldn't be uncomfortable. She closed her eyes. You're right. Oh God, you're right. When did you get so strong? I was always this strong, Mum. You just never noticed because you were too busy being disappointed in me. We sat in silence. Then she said, That jacket you wore to dinner, the one that woman mocked, that was your grandmother's Chanel. Yes. Helena always said you were special, that you had something David didn't. I never understood what she meant. Now I do. She was right about everything. My mother left after an hour. We didn't hug, didn't make promises. But when she got to the door, she turned back. I'm proud of you, Anna. I should have said that years ago. I'm saying it now. I'm so proud of you. After she left, I called Isabel. They're all trying, I said. Trying to fix it. Do you think it can be fixed? I don't know, she said. But at least they're finally seeing you. That's something. Yeah, I said. That's something. 3 months later, I was in Milan for Fashion Week. One of my clients was doing a major relaunch, and I was there for the show. Front row, which still felt surreal even after years in this world. Models walking in pieces I'd helped conceptualize. A brand I'd saved from irrelevance now being celebrated as the next big thing. Isabel sat next to me, taking notes. After this, we're getting extremely expensive pasta, she said. And you're paying because you're rich and I'm just moderately successful. I laughed. Deal. My phone buzzed. David. Hope the show goes well. Mum said you're in Milan. Send photos. We're proud of you. Small message. But it meant everything. Because they were trying. It was slow. It was awkward. But my family was actually trying. My mother had started asking about my work. Real questions. She'd Googled my clients, read articles about the brands I'd worked with, started to understand what I actually did. My father had coffee with me once a week now. We talked about business, about the legal structures of international consulting, about legacy and heritage. He listened like I was worth listening to. David and I were rebuilding slowly. He'd ended things with Vanessa completely, blocked her, changed his number. Apparently, she'd tried to get money from him for emotional distress after the party. He'd told her to talk to his lawyer. Last I heard, she'd left London entirely, moved to Manchester or maybe Liverpool, deleted her online presence, and started over. Part of me felt bad for her, but mostly I didn't. She'd made her choices. They had consequences. That's how justice works. After the show, Isabel and I did get extremely expensive pasta at a tiny restaurant near the Duomo. We sat outside in the September warmth, drinking wine that cost more than my first month's rent had years ago, watching Milan be beautiful and chaotic around us. Your family called again, Isabel said. Your mum left a voicemail. I know, I said. I'll call her back tomorrow. She's asking about Christmas. Whether you'll come, whether you'll bring me. She's met me 3 times, Isabel. That's 3 times more than the last few years. Progress is progress. Are you going to go? I swirled my wine. Maybe. On my terms, though. My place, not theirs. They want to see me. They can come to my world. Look at you, Isabel grinned. Setting boundaries, being assertive, growing as a person. I threw a piece of bread at her. We laughed, and I realized I felt light. Not happy, exactly. Healing takes longer than 3 months, but lighter than I'd felt in years, maybe ever. The weight of trying to be less than I was, of hiding my success, of accepting their version of who I should be, all of it had lifted. I was just Anna now, successful, flawed, still figuring things out, but absolutely, completely myself. We flew back to London the next day. I had meetings, client work, the normal rhythm of my life. But something had shifted. I wasn't hiding anymore. When potential clients Googled me now, they found articles, features in business magazines about the quiet consultant rebuilding European fashion houses. My LinkedIn, which I'd barely used before, now accurately reflected what I did. I wasn't advertising, but I wasn't hiding either. 2 weeks after Milan, I had dinner with my family, my flat, like I'd said. I cooked, which surprised them. Apparently, they'd assumed I survived on takeaway. I made my grandmother's recipe for Polish stew, bigos. It took 2 days to prepare properly, but the smell filled my flat with memory and comfort. They arrived together, the three of them, looking nervous, like they were meeting me for the first time. Maybe they were. We ate. We talked. Not about the past, not yet. About now. About my upcoming trip to Paris. About David's new project at work, one he was actually excited about instead of just doing for the promotion. About my mother's book club, which she'd rejoined after years away. About my father's plan to reduce his hours, spend more time on things that mattered. Small talk, normal talk, family talk, but real this time. No performance, no pretending. After dinner, my mother helped me with dishes. We stood side by side at my kitchen sink, her washing, me drying, and she said quietly, "This flat. It's beautiful, very you, elegant, understated. I never knew you had such good taste." "I learned from grandmother," I said. "She taught me that less is more, that quality beats quantity, that real style is about knowing who you are, not proving it to anyone else." My mother was quiet for a moment. I wish I'd known her better, really known her. Not just as Richard's mother, but as herself. She tried to tell me things about you, that you were special, that I should pay attention. I thought she was being sentimental, biased. She wasn't. "You weren't," I said gently. "You were just scared. You wanted me to be safe, to be secure. You thought that meant conventional." But grandmother understood that I needed different things, different measures. She gave me permission to be myself. "You couldn't give me that because you were afraid of it." My mother set down the dish she was washing. "Can I give it to you now?" I looked at her. Her face was vulnerable in a way I'd never seen. "Yes," I said. "You can give it to me now." When they left, David hugged me at the door. "This was nice," he said. "Can we do it again?" "Yeah," I replied. "We can do it again." Christmas came. I hosted at my flat. It was strange and wonderful. We didn't pretend the past hadn't happened, but we didn't dwell on it either. We were building something new. My mother brought my grandmother's china, the set she'd inherited. "I think Helena would want you to have this," she said, "for when you host, for when you build your own traditions." I took it carefully. "Thank you." My father gave me a book, Legal Structures for International Businesses. "I thought you might find it interesting," he said gruffly. I did find it interesting. We talked about it for an hour. David gave me a photo. Old, from when we were kids. 7 and 10 at the beach, building sandcastles. "I found this in Mum's albums. Look at your face. Pure concentration. You were always like that. Intense about things we took lightly? I'm sorry I stopped noticing. I kept the photo, put it on my desk at work, a reminder that we'd been siblings once before roles and expectations got in the way. Maybe we could be siblings again, different, better, real. 6 months after the engagement party, I got an email from one of Vanessa's former students, the woman who'd created the collective Instagram exposing the scam. Ms. Wright, I wanted to thank you. What you did at that party, exposing her, it gave the rest of us permission to speak up. We've formed a group. We're pursuing legal action. Several of us are getting refunds. The authorities are investigating. She can't do this to anyone else now. Thank you for being brave enough to tell the truth. We all needed someone to go first, I wrote back. You were already brave. You already knew the truth. I just had a microphone and a moment, but I'm glad it helped. Keep fighting. You deserve justice. And I meant it. This wasn't just about my family. It was about all of us who'd been dismissed, overlooked, told we were less than we were. All of us who'd been performing or hiding or shrinking to make other people comfortable. We deserved to be seen, actually seen, not as supporting characters in someone else's story, as the protagonists of our own. A year after everything exploded, I took my mother to Paris. Business trip that turned into a long weekend. I showed her where I worked, introduced her to clients, let her see the world I'd built. We had dinner at a tiny bistro in the Marais. She ordered in terrible French. I corrected her gently. We laughed. And she said, Anna, I need to say something. I've needed to say it for a while now. I'm sorry. Really, truly sorry. For all of it. For making you feel invisible. For not seeing how extraordinary you were. For letting that woman mock you and saying nothing. For all the ways I failed you as a mother, I can't take it back. But I want you to know I see it now. I see you now. And I'm so, so sorry. I reached across the table, took her hand. I know, Mom, and I'm sorry too, for shutting you out, for not trusting you enough to share my life, for assuming you'd never understand. We both got it wrong, but we're getting it right now. That's what matters. She squeezed my hand. Her eyes were wet. Helena would be so proud of you. She is, Mom. I know she is. We walked back to the hotel through Paris at night, arm in arm, and I thought about my grandmother, about her last words to me. Don't waste time trying to prove yourself to people who've already decided who you are. Prove it to yourself. I'd done that. I'd built something real, something mine, something that didn't need external validation to exist. But the surprising thing, the thing I hadn't expected, was that once I stopped needing them to see me, they finally could. Once I stopped performing, they stopped too. And underneath all the roles and expectations and disappointment, we found something real. Family. Messy. Imperfect. Trying. But real. I'm not going to tell you that everything is perfect now. It's not. There are still awkward moments. Still times when my mother says something thoughtless or my father doesn't quite get it. Still times when David slips back into golden child mode without meaning to. But we're trying. And that's more than I thought I'd ever have. My business is thriving. I'm opening a New York office next year. Isabel is coming with me. We're building something bigger. Something that helps not just heritage brands, but young designers who understand legacy and craft. I'm creating scholarships for design students in my grandmother's name, passing forward what she gave me. Opportunity, permission, the belief that you can build something meaningful on your own terms. The scholarship was Isabel's idea, actually. You're always talking about your grandmother, she said one day over coffee, how she gave you permission to be yourself. Why not give that to other people? So we did. The Helena Novak Design Scholarship. Full funding for students who show exceptional talent but don't fit the traditional mold. Students like I was. Quiet, unconventional, underestimated. The first recipient was a girl from Manchester who'd been told by her school careers advisor that fashion was frivolous. She sent me a letter after the award ceremony. "You saved my life," she wrote. "Not just financially. You showed me it's possible, that someone like me can make it." I cried when I read it. That's what my grandmother gave me. And now I get to give it forward. Sometimes people ask me if I regret the engagement party, if I regret exposing Vanessa so publicly, if I regret hurting my family. And I tell them the truth. I don't regret telling the truth. I regret that the truth was necessary. I regret that I was invisible for so long that I had to detonate a bomb to be seen. But I don't regret the detonation itself. Some silences need to be broken. Some performances need to end. Some truths need to be told. No matter how uncomfortable, my family taught me that visibility equals value. They were wrong. Value exists whether anyone sees it or not. But being valued by the people you love, being truly seen and appreciated, that's still worth fighting for. As long as you don't lose yourself in the fight. As long as you remember that you don't need their approval to approve of yourself. I know who I am now. I know what I've built. I know my worth. And whether my family recognizes it or not, whether anyone recognizes it or not, that knowledge is enough. It has to be. Because the most powerful thing you can do is know your own value and live accordingly. So tell me in the comments, have you ever had to prove your worth to people who should have seen it all along? What did you do? And to anyone out there still hiding their light, still making themselves smaller to make others comfortable, still waiting for permission to be extraordinary, let me tell you something. You don't need permission. You never did. The people who truly matter, they'll celebrate you without needing proof. They'll see you without needing a spotlight. They'll love you without needing you to earn it. Everyone else? They'll learn eventually, or they won't. Either way, you'll be too busy succeeding to care. Build your empire, live your truth, be exactly who you are. The rest will follow, or it won't. But you'll be free either way. And freedom, real freedom, is worth more than any approval you have to shrink yourself to earn. The best revenge isn't destruction. It isn't even exposure. The best revenge is building a life so authentic, so successful, so completely yours that their opinion of you becomes irrelevant. That's what I did. That's what my grandmother taught me. And that's what I'm telling you. You are enough. You were always enough. Now go prove it to the only person who matters, yourself.